Part 96. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huoqiang Xiao. Chapter 985. Once you get in the car, it will be difficult to get off. However, Yang Yuk had no intention of getting off the bus from the beginning. Even if the car falls off in various situations midway, Yang Yu will not let it fall off. The ability that Dede has now is enough to move a car and people instantly for a long distance. By then, he may be able to reach the destination directly. There has to be some fun when traveling. More importantly, Yang Yu can learn more about the situation on Mount Everest from the driver in the car or the person carrying the passengers. If Yang Yu asks someone to ask directly, he might be a little embarrassed. After all, he might ask a lot of questions and take up a lot of time. No, we have already boarded the bus, and if we don't cherish this wonderful time, it will really be a waste of the good time on this journey. There were 3 other young men in the car with Yang Yu, all boys. It seemed that 2 of them were together and the other one was alone. "Master driver, how long does it take to go to Mount Everest from here?" one of the young people asked. Next to the young man, there was a Harry. In the van, only elves of this size were allowed to ride together, otherwise the space would be very crowded. If you go slower, it will take about 4 hours. You have to watch the road in the middle. Sometimes there may be controls here. The convoys from the military camp must go first. There is a special mountaineering base camp here on Mount Everest. Judging from your luggage, you should be prepared. Are you going hiking? The driver's accent sounded a little rough and convoluted, but it was basically understandable. At this moment, Yang Yu and the 4 of them looked at each other. Except for the 2 trainers who were together, they were still a little unfamiliar and slightly wary of each other. Mountain climbing is a good choice at this time. However, if you don't have a professional level, it is recommended to practice more at the training ground at the base camp. When the time comes, you will have the opportunity to reach a height of about 4,000 or 5,000 meters, which will be great. Of course, if your elves are stronger, have an elite level or something, they can be even 500 or 600 meters taller. In short, safety comes first. The 2 young trainers who were together nodded repeatedly and said that they should be able to experience it at an altitude of about 4,000 or 5,000 meters. However, Darkrai in the shadow space spoke interestingly in Yang Yu's ear. These 2 young people who have no experience in the world have revealed their true strength to others all at once. Yang Yu didn't pay much attention to it at first. After all, strength is something, right? Anyone who knows Yang Yu should know that if he said this, the driver would jump out of the car immediately. However, Yang Yu listened to Darkrai. He was reminded and nodded in agreement. What Darkrai said makes perfect sense. When you go out, be careful. At first glance, these 2 young people look like they are inexperienced. Too young. As for the other 2, if you are in good physical condition and have frequently climbed mountains before, you may have the opportunity to go to the territory of Sanjay-Ren and Blizzard King, which is probably at an altitude of more than 6,000 meters. I have driven many young people, and many people. Everyone wants to catch a Blizzard King, but basically no one succeeds," said the man in the passenger seat who was responsible for soliciting customers at the station. From Yang Yu's perspective, you can see a tacit smile between the driver and the man. Blizzard King, a very strong elf. The remaining young man couldn't help but speak. For young trainers, powerful elves have always been their goals and aspirations. Especially the Blizzard King, who has evolved from the Pine Snowman, can cast hail during the elf battle. Even the powerful Blizzard King can turn the surrounding environment into ice and snow when he emerges from the elf ball. This is a very powerful Blizzard King. Of a place. No matter what kind of elf, it comes with the ability to change the surrounding weather environment, which plays a very important role in elf battles. However, it is still too difficult to catch the Blizzard King. The altitude where they live is a bit high, and if they live in groups, it will be even more difficult to catch them. At this moment, the driver immediately smiled and said, "It's actually not as difficult as you think. The peaks of Mount Everest have spirits. You may not be able to capture the Blizzard King or the Snowman simply by relying on your strength. More importantly, you need to have friendly communication with them. If you're lucky, maybe the Blizzard King will follow you all the way on Mount Everest and protect you, but there are too few such examples," the man in the co-pilot seat added. At present, they and the driver have basically made a judgment on the strength of these young trainers. Among the two who are in a group, one of them has Harry Lee next to him. It is estimated that he is in the forefront of the senior trainers, and the one behind him, the one who opens his mouth, will be stronger than those two who are in a group. As for the one who basically didn't say much, the young man with Jigglypuff, "Okay, it's okay. This is a trainer who looks useless, just like those little fresh meats often shown on TV. He brings a Jigglypuff by his side to pretend to be young. Woolen cloth? While you are young, you should cultivate more elves that are suitable for elf battles, and at the same time have higher combat effectiveness. Otherwise, if you send a Jigglypuff on the field during the elf battle, will it be possible to sing to the elves on the opposite side? What happens after you finish singing? It's not like he can't beat other elves. Today's young people. My mind is too impetuous. You should accept the severe beatings from society and learn after suffering some losses. In the elf world, strength is the most important. Maybe after returning this time, these young trainers will have to be grateful to them in the future. If they hadn't been severely stabbed on this journey, I'm afraid they still don't understand why the young trainers have so many twisted thoughts. If it is useful, it is the last word to quickly improve the strength of the trainer. All in all, there is no future for raising a fat baby. What a waste of this great time as a trainer. However, now is not the time to wait for the road to open again, then drive again, and wait until we reach the gas station or service area to discuss the price. After all, we've come here and we're halfway there, so why can't we accept even a little extra money? It's a bit boring to chat like this on the way. Master, don't you have some music in the car? A more lyrical and dynamic thing doesn't matter at all. By the way, will it disturb you three? Yang Yu spoke at this time. The other three young trainers had no objections. It is normal for me to listen to music at my age. There are probably more than 3 hours of this journey. Listening to music in the car, maybe you will come across a particularly familiar song and you can't help but hum it. It is also very pleasant thing. Okay, road music, this must be there. The man in the passenger seat inserted a music disc, and soon there was some rhythmic music in the van. At the same time, through Yang Yu's actions, they gained a new understanding of this young trainer who didn't talk much. Jigglypuff, isn't he just a type of elf basically linked to music? Sure enough, playing with things makes one lose one's ambition. After all, in their eyes, even if Jigglypuff, an elf with no fighting power, evolves into Jigglypuff, so what? But Haralai is different. The final evolved form of Brick Allen is also the best among the elves in terms of physical attack and defense capabilities. It has extremely strong combat power, but what it lacks is the time to cultivate it. Brother, if you are traveling with Jigglypuff, are you planning to take the path of an observer? It is true that there are almost no male trainers with Jigglypuff, and most of them are female trainers. Most people more or less think that a male trainer taking care of an elf like Jigglypuff would look a bit girly, just like the old man I met on the train before. This is a secular concept that is difficult to change, but as for Yang Yu, how could Yang Yu care about other people's opinions when he chose an elf? Just like him from the bottom of his heart. What's more, this Jigglypuff is no ordinary Jigglypuff. Because this is Yang Yu's fatty. As for why they didn't say that Yang Yu wanted to be a star, it was because Yang Yu's temperament did not have that outstanding star temperament. Observer, Yang Yu was happy in his heart, guiding Jigglypuff is not just an observer. Why don't you say that I am a star? To be honest, I think I can sing well. I would like to express my gratitude to you along the way. Ugly, give everyone a lively atmosphere. If you sing well, maybe I can give you a cheaper fare. The driver slowed down a little now, preparing to pass a traffic light in front of him. Okay, let's show off our shame then. After a few seconds. But when Yang Yu's first sound sounded. Driver. Come on, I want to get off. I want to get off the car. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huoqiang Xiao. Chapter 986. The van suddenly pulled over and stopped. I'm afraid the air will suddenly become quiet. Brother, although I admit that Jigglypuff's singing is very unique, I really doubt how Jigglypuff met you. What kind of thing are you singing? If it weren't for the safety of the people in the car, the driver would really have had a good talk with Yang Yu. The singing is so unpleasant, not only can't the fare be reduced, but also the mental damage fee will be added. Where is the singing? It is clearly a transcendence. The driver and the man in the passenger seat in front had lingering fears. What the hell, they just want to make a little more money, is it easy for them? Wow, it's so exciting all of a sudden, it seems like people are in high spirits in an instant. Lao Hu, if we want to kill him, what if he sings? The driver suddenly woke up. Damn it! Although they charge a little more than other buses, they still have professional ethics and this kind of hurtful thing is absolutely not allowed. Sometimes we would encounter convoys from military camps along the way. If someone really did something outrageous, it would not be the police station, but the sergeants who would see them directly. Forget it, just treat it as a joke, but I really didn't expect that Jigglypuff would actually choose to follow you. But it seems like I haven't heard a song that can run away like this for a long time. Brother, who gave you the courage? Didn't anyone tell you that your tunes have traveled thousands of miles away? The three young trainers in the same car were very open-minded. They were convinced anyway. They had never seen such a thick-skinned trainer. Sorry, I improvised at the moment. I couldn't hold it back when I was excited. So, I'd better let my Jigglypuff sing for everyone. Yang Yu secretly sighed in his heart. My moral character is still a little bit behind, and my courage doesn't seem to be as bold as it was during the military training period. During the military training, Yang Yu dared to sing in front of the instructors, and was specifically responsible for waking up the students and instructors who were accidentally injured by Fatty. The effect is awesome. Now, it seems that I am not very thick-skinned. How is this possible? In the future, Yang Yu will have to dance with the Z bracelet. If he can't bear the pressure now, then it's time to actually use the Z bracelet in the spotlight. Still need to practice more. The three trainers in the car, as well as the driver in front and the man in the passenger seat, were of too low a level. With their strength and thinking, how could they possibly know Yang Yu's purpose for doing this? This is the training of a trainer. As soon as Jigglypuff opened his voice, the situation suddenly seemed different. For young people, rhythmic rock music is very popular. Although Jigglypuff only played relatively ordinary music rhythms, at least it was more acceptable to them than Yang Yu's singing. Damn it, Jigglypuff who plays rock and roll. 6666. Brother, you Jigglypuff is awesome. I have never seen a Jigglypuff who can play rock and roll. For the three young trainers, their views on Yang Yu suddenly changed. When it comes to elf cultivation, all trainers will think that the elf they cultivate will be unique, and when they become famous for their strength in the future, when a certain elf is mentioned, they can think of the trainer it represents. For example, when you think of Magikarp, you will think of the evolved Gyarados of Magikarp. When you think of Gyarados, you will naturally think of Yang Yu, the most famous Gyarados trainer in China. It is a good thing that elves have their own characteristics, but not all characteristics can shine in the hands of trainers. Sometimes, many situations will fall into place. Hey, little brother, you Jigglypuff has something. How did you raise him? It's rare to find Jigglypuffs who can play rock and roll. The driver in front also became curious at this moment. Jigglypuff was tapping his feet on the platform of the van and playing a powerful rhythm. Jigglypuff had his own melody. Although it was not a formal large-scale performance, Jigglypuff would also strive for excellence in simple performances. Speaking of it, it's fate. Sometimes you just need fate to meet an elf, Yang Yu replied with a smile. As for cultivating elf, just work hard to cultivate it in one direction. Although I'm not very good at singing, but Fatty it's enough if Ding sings well. Perhaps because the music was a little loud, a pair of small eyes appeared in the button in Yang Yu's hiking backpack. Tijipai yawned in the bag and rubbed his eyes. I haven't rested enough yet, so I continue to sleep. Although everyone knows how to do it, it feels a bit difficult to actually do it. Anyway, I know that many elves play the same type of elf battle, and in the end, each elf loses its own characteristics. I'm afraid I won't be able to hold on. What these three young trainers said was quite good and they also had their own opinions. However, their understanding of the strength of trainer Yang Yu was more or less biased. To be able to find such a path for such a Jigglypuff that does not improve the trainer's strength, although the rock music Jigglypuff sings is very unique and unusual, but it seems very useless in the battle between elves. The trainer's strength is more importantly reflected in the battle. At this moment, the driver and the man in the front passenger seat had almost a basic understanding of the trainer abilities of the four young passengers behind them. Although the trainer at the end was a bit out of character and seemed to be being mysterious at first, it seems now. It's good to be active and lively on the road, but the strength is definitely not particularly strong. The most taboo thing for young trainers is distraction. Perhaps in life, having such a Jigglypuff who masters rock and roll skills can improve the quality of life, but now, the most important thing about singing rock and roll is that Jigglypuff can initially use the hypnotic effect of singing, also because the rock factor has weakened a lot. Thus, that's it, I should be able to make a little more money this time. There were some bumps along the way, and Yang Yu's backpack bounced back and forth on the car, like a cradle, making the little dream demon and Tijipai who were resting in the shade in the backpack feel particularly comfortable. Jigglypuff's excellent performance was unanimously praised by everyone. After Yang Yu let Jigglypuff rest, he gave Jigglypuff a small water cup specially designed for Jigglypuff and drank some water to moisten his throat. Although this stage is very small, no matter how small it is still a good place to accumulate experience. Jigglypuff knows that it will be difficult to have a super big stage that attracts everyone's attention like in the North American elf paradise in a short time. In this way, it will cherish the small stage even more. As long as Jigglypuff gets his microphone, he will go all out. Yang Yu was communicating with Jigglypuff through the power of the wave guide. Jigglypuff's go all out gave Yang Yu more divergent thinking on how to use Z moves. It can be said that he was quite touched. If Yang Yu is wearing a Z bracelet, the moment he activates the Z pure crystal should be exactly the same as the moment Jigglypuff takes his microphone. The full force posture displayed by Yang Yu is the same as Jigglypuff's full force posture. There will definitely be similarities and differences. In this way, Jigglypuff gradually became Yang Yu's teacher. Trainers and elves work together and make progress together. The most important thing between each other is trust, friendship, and a deep bond. The most crucial thing about the Z move is the absolute trust between the trainer and the elf. Its mode of action is very similar to the elf mega evolution. Currently, what Yang Yu is thinking about is the simulation theory. In terms of the attitude of full force posture, Jigglypuff is definitely someone Yang Yu needs to learn from. Because Jigglypuff, it really sings with its own voice with all its strength every time. Even if it is morning voice training, Jigglypuff will still insist on it every day, regardless of wind or rain. If Jigglypuff is not beside Yang Yu's bed in the morning, he must still be training. If Yang Yu opened his eyes and found Jigglypuff under the covers, it must be that Jigglypuff has finished his training. It seems a bit boring. You two look like you are still in college. It should be the beginning of college now. Why are you thinking of going to Mount Everest at this time? Lu Jian, who was in the two-man team, spoke. What about you two? Chen Yang, the only trainer besides Yang Yu, asked. Lao Zhang and I just graduated this year and we made an appointment to go to Mount Everest as a graduation trip, Lu Jian said with a smile. Zhang Duran, who was with Lu Jian, nodded. I usually don't have the chance to go to Mount Everest. Now I have a little more time after graduation. After going to Mount Everest this time, I should go back to work in the company with peace of mind. The path of a trainer is not that easy. Most college students have graduated, and the strength of trainers is basically around high level and intermediate levels. The strength of elite level trainers is already the best in many universities. When deciding whether to continue on the road of being a trainer, it is usually done in the fourth year of college is decided. I am studying at a university here in Western Tibet. The school is relatively relaxed, and one of the tests for whether I can graduate from the school is to go to Mount Everest, Chen Yang said. This rule, little brother, are you a student of Tibet University? The driver, Master Hu, was very happy. The National Elf University should be Tibet University. There is such a rule. But in the future, other Tibetan universities will the Elf University should also learn from Tibet University. In this way, trainers should see more of the world and move around the country more. Tibet Elf University, it's amazing. In this year's national competition, Tibet Elf University's ranking was dozens of places higher than our university. Powerful. Basically, everyone likes to hear the praises from Lu Jian and Zhang Duran, especially when they praise Chen Yang's alma mater. It feels really good. It's okay, we still have to keep working hard, Chen Yang said modestly. Brother, what about you? Have you graduated this year? But you seem to be too young, Lu Jian continued to ask. Yang Yu was somewhat convinced. These young people have suddenly revealed their own secrets. Even after graduating from college, their minds are a little too simple. But Yang Yu could only cooperate with them now. Why? Yang Yu's eyes could only show the honeyed expression of an old father. I should have graduated. I graduated a little early. Like you, I went to Mount Everest to see the world. If Yang Yu wants to get his graduation certificate, he can get it very early, but the principal Jin Xiaodong always wants to keep Yang Yu. Besides, Yang Yu still has brothers in 403. It will be a good thing to graduate with them when the time comes. So the graduation certificate thing is not that important. Which school? Zhang Duran asked. University? Forget it, let's not mention it. Anyway, the ranking in the national competition is not very high. It should be dozens of places behind Tibet University. Yang Yu told the truth. Compared with Yanjing Elf University and Xinjiang Elf University, it is indeed not very advanced at present. But now the school's ranking among elf universities is gradually improving. Perhaps in the future, the ranking may be even higher. Compared with Tibet Elf University, it is indeed several dozen places behind. It is just a few dozen places ahead, not a few dozen places behind. Speaking of college, I still admire the legends in the national competition. Oh, that big guy is now among the top trainers in the country. He is really a legend. The big boss can only look up, and even if you look up, you may not be able to see his back. I really don't know how he did it. Probably, this is a godlike existence. Yang Yu could even use his toes to figure out who the three young men were talking about. The legend of the national competition can only be looked up to. Besides him, Yang Yu, who else could be there? In the past, such a few words would have been quite enjoyable to hear, but now Yang Yu's level is different. How could it be possible to hear just these few words? It takes a lot of effort. The old king of North America, Dwight, is no match for the new king Yang Yu. Hey, I really want to see him take action with my own eyes. How terrible will this battle between king-level trainers be? I am afraid that the sky will be darkened with just a move, and the teacher has said that the elf battle at that level has been said before. The most stable elf gym in the country cannot withstand the power of the king-level elf battle. If you really see it with your own eyes, if he takes action, he may not even be able to save his life. Darkrai in the shadow space rolled his eyes. Darkrai was basically used to this extremely thick-skinned human trainer. It has never seen such a shameless person. However, it is open to question whether Yang Yu's life can be saved if he takes action, but as long as Yang Yu sings a few more words, his life will definitely not be saved. Nightmare God Darkrai will have nightmares if he hears it too much, let alone people. At this time, during the exchange, the van gradually slowed down. After a while, it stopped. Master, what happened? Why did you stop halfway? Yang Yu asked. He was very cute and thought that in the future, the two masters would start to show off their skills to steal the toll, but Yang Yu, what I didn't expect was. There was a team of sergeants standing at attention in front. Hello, is your car going to the Mount Everest area? Yes, what's wrong? The driver, Master Hu, suddenly looked nervous. We have some relief supplies here that need to be transported to Mount Everest urgently, and we need your help, an officer said with a very serious expression. Everest? What happened there? Yang Yu's expression suddenly became solemn. Avalanche. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huoqiang Xiao. Chapter 987. Avalanche. When climbing Mount Everest, no matter what altitude you are at, you must always pay attention to the surrounding environment. Especially when you reach an altitude of more than 6,500 meters, strong winds in the air are very likely to directly impact the climbers. It blew over and fell to the lower rocks. Under normal circumstances, the people who detect the weather in the base will make timely reports through communications, and ordinary climbers will not go to such high areas, except for professional climbers and those who have a strong grasp of the elves on Mount Everest. Trainers with ideas can overcome difficulties and climb mountains. In addition to the natural factors of weather, the most terrifying disaster on Mount Everest, and the greatest threat to climbers and climber elves, is the unknown avalanche. Avalanches don't happen often, but every time they happen, the damage and impact they bring are very terrifying, especially for trainers and elves who are still climbing during the avalanche. For them, it is a matter of life and death. A thin line separates. Officer, please get in the car. The driver, Master Hu, was shocked. If he went to Mount Everest along the way, he might not be able to earn any money on this trip, and if he wanted to earn more, it would be impossible. But in comparison, with the avalanche on Mount Everest, he had no reason to refuse this trip. Requisition. Many batches of our supplies have been sent to the joint camp at the foot of Mount Everest. Due to the large quantity, they have to be requisitioned. We ask for your understanding. From the car window, I saw Yang Yu and 4 young men in the car. The sergeant quickly loaded a large number of medical and health supplies into the car, and a sergeant followed him into the car. The van was a little crowded at this time, but in any case, things were urgent. Although the overall quantity of this batch of materials that could be transported by the van was not large, it would be better to be able to transport more. Sensing the extremely serious atmosphere, Chen Chenyang, Zhang Duran, and Lu Jian couldn't help but feel their breathing become heavier, because such an emergency had never been seen before by the 3 of them. Avalanches on Mount Everest. When I think of that earth-shattering scene in my mind, even though a newborn calf is not afraid of tigers, at the moment when he is actually about to see the danger with his own eyes, his legs can't help but tremble. Yang Yu took a deep breath, and in the eyes of the other three young people who couldn't understand and were a little confused, he asked seriously, "Are there still a lot of supplies stranded here?" The sergeant who was sitting at attention in the car suddenly brightened up and immediately said, "Do you have any super or ghost elves that can store supplies?" Super type and ghost type elves, whose strength is around that of high-level elves, can almost store some small objects with them. Basically, when they reach elite level, super type elves and ghost type elves can have very good ability to store objects. "I can take you there with me." Yang Yu glanced at the road from the corner of his eye. There were at least 2 teams of sergeants here, about 30 people. At the same time, the most important thing was the supplies temporarily placed under the tent. In order to prevent the sun from being exposed, most of these supplies were concentrated under the shade. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet. The remaining 3 trainers in the car and the 2 masters in the driver's cab and passenger's cab felt that they had many little question marks. "Take us," the sergeant was stunned. He didn't react for a while. In emergencies, emergency measures must be followed. Yang Yu did not expect that the day after he accepted the title of King of the Elf Alliance, that is, he had just accepted the ceremony of being named a king-level trainer in the Yanjing Auditorium yesterday, and he would encounter something that required his action here today. And, the situation could be dire. "May I ask you are?" There was an elf ball in Yang Yu's hand. He took a deep breath and said eloquently, "King of Heaven, Yang Yu." In the sky in western Tibet, a shocking scene of 2 Gyarados and a Minas appeared. On the backs of the 2 Gyarados, there were 2 neat rows of sergeants wearing dark green uniforms. Poppy, Carrot, Little Dream Demon and Tijapai, who had completely woken up from their rest, even saluted in the direction of the sergeant in a decent manner when they saw the beautiful scenery on the backs of Little Bayo Bayo and Salty Fish King. The atmosphere at this time should be serious, but when they saw Little Dream Demon and Tijapai saluting as if they were extremely skilled, they even wanted to laugh for a moment. This situation is very rare. It also makes a serious road trip a little more interesting. At this time, there was another van on the road that stayed in place as if in a daze and did not start for a long time. "Did we just see something?" the driver, Master Hu, almost had his head out of the windshield. He was dumbfounded when he saw the 3 figures of elves flying away in the sky. "King of Heaven, Yang Yu, let me tell you, he is Heavenly King Yang Yu. The youngest Heavenly King level trainer in China." The man in the passenger seat suddenly trembled all over, and he murmured in an extremely soft voice, "I actually randomly picked up a guest at the station, it's the King of Heaven Yang Yu. I just casually saw him alone, oh no, he came alone. I even want to kill King Yang Yu for the travel expenses. I'm going to knock on you, who gave me such courage. I'm confused, really confused. If this sudden change hadn't been due to the avalanche on Mount Everest, otherwise, they would have died a long time ago. No, he's bleeding too now. This is so surprising, and you may not be able to do it, but they actually want to kill the King of Heaven, Yang Yu. Even if it's just an extra 10% or 20% of travel expenses, that's still a ripoff. Is he Yang Yu? What did he come to Mount Everest for? King Yang Yushin, we actually met King Yang Yushin on the way. Master, 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 you are so awesome, you can even catch King Yang Yushin on the way, how did you do it? You are so amazing." Lu Jian felt like he was going crazy, and he was going crazy with happiness. He even still has the photo of Yang Yu just before he left in his hand, even if it's just a back view. But this figure with a mountaineering bag on his back is extremely handsome. What is a legend? This is the legend. This scene where 2 Gyarados are summoned, my god, one on the left and one on the right, a king-level Gyarados, and a gym-level Gyarados that can master Super Evolution. It turns out that the king-level trainer it's so cool to take action. So handsome. At this time, Chen Yang said belatedly, before, Yang Tianhuang said that his school's ranking was not very high, and when we were talking about the national competition, we boasted about Yang Yuxianwang so much. So could it be that before he finally left, he told us to wait for him on Mount Everest and meet him there? Lu Jian became excited. Yes, yes, it's possible. This is an invitation from a king-level trainer. How lucky we are. After the van fell into silence, a burst of howling began. As everyone knows, Yang Yu said he wanted to meet on Mount Everest because he wanted to pay the driver some money for travel. After all, it was quite a pleasant journey down the road. After paying for it, it was just comfortable. Master, how long will it take us to reach Mount Everest at the earliest? Chen Yang couldn't help but ask. If there are no other road conditions ahead, the fastest, 2 hours. At this moment, the old driver master who instantly felt that he was possessed by the god of driving. Not to mention the initial D, he immediately catched a shrimp and took off instantly. On this road full of mountainous roads, a speeding van appeared. When the vehicles in front were overtaken by this van. Brothers, you may not believe it. The supercar we are riding in was actually overtaken by a van. Is this an inertial drift or a catapult start? That van was very fast, and we didn't see its license plate. But look at the make of the van. Wuling Hongguang, forever a god. Flying in the high altitude, if it is an ordinary flying elf, at such a height, it is above the plateau, plus it is affected by the wind and cold temperature. It requires at least an elite level, or even a flying elf close to the gym level. Only then can one have a certain ability to persevere. There are very few elves who can persist, let alone advance at high speed. This is the first time these sergeants have ridden behind a Gyarados, and it even feels a little unreal, because to them these two Gyarados. It was really shocking. A dozen people can ride on the back of each head, and all the people in their small company can be carried directly. No wonder Yang Tianhuang said before that he would take us all with him. The sergeant who was originally planning to follow the van to Mount Everest couldn't help but think to himself. This is absolute strength. What is the situation of this avalanche? Can you tell me in detail? Yang Yu controlled the superpower through dullness, rode the great beauty in the sky, and talked to the sergeant on the back of the salted fish king. Yang Tianhuang, the avalanche happened so suddenly that there is basically no way to predict it, but this avalanche will mainly affect the frontline mountaineering camps. There are many mountaineering preparatory personnel and even scientific researchers at the mountaineering camps. Now there are some of them have temporarily lost contact. The leader of this team is called Wang Hui. He informed that he had received the temporary order to collect relief supplies from the nearest area and rush to the Everest area ahead. King Yang, Captain Wang, look at the mountains ahead, a voice in the team exclaimed. At this moment, Yang Yu's eyes quickly looked forward. The higher you are in the sky, the clearer you can see. What kind of picture is this? Yang Yu couldn't help but take in a breath of cold air. The cold wind in the sky, if it weren't for the protection of Dudu's superpower, Yang Yu felt that this breath could even pierce the bottom of his heart with coldness. On the top of the mountain, there seemed to be a million-strong army of ice and snow, rolling up a blizzard and huge hailstones from the top of the mountain toward the bottom. It looked as if the mountain was about to collapse. The white wind waves swept by the avalanche looked like a white devil from a distance, stretching out its pale and terrifying hand and beginning its raging in the mountainous area of Mount Everest. Wait, what is that? Yang Yu only felt that in front of him, in the world of snow-capped peaks, an extremely bright blue light seemed to appear from it. This light, incomparably eye-catching and dazzling. Yang Yu's first thought was that the legendary elf freeze bird on Mount Everest had suddenly awakened at this moment. However, Darkrai, who was in the shadow space next to Yang Yu at this moment, told the real situation. The king-level elf, Minas. Yi. Almost at the same time, Minas under Yang's seat suddenly opened her eyes wide, because this should be the first time she saw a second Minas besides herself in the real world of elves. More importantly, when the blue light that appeared in the white avalanche gradually controlled the movement caused by the violent avalanche for a little while, the king-level strength bloomed in it with the glorious power of Minas. It's the Ice Queen. King Yang, that's the powerful guardian trainer in the Mount Everest region, the Ice King, the Ice Queen. Captain Wang Hui's expression immediately became excited. In the western Tibet region, almost all the sergeants in the military camps understand in their hearts, especially in the Mount Everest area, that there is a king here, who protects the safety around Mount Everest. Mount Everest is a border junction between China and other countries. At the same time, as the highest peak in the world and known as the roof of the world, Mount Everest is the most suitable place for the life and training of ice elves. Ice Queen, Wang Tongbing. About 15 years ago, when he was still a gym-level trainer, he gave up the path of becoming an ice gym leader and resolutely headed towards Mount Everest, the holy land of ice elves. A holy place for cultivating ice elf trainers. Although the attributes of the Minas elves are recorded as water elves in the Elf Alliance, due to the climate of Mount Everest and years of accumulation, the ice power that Minas awakened in the ice and snow weather helped him, and also helped Wang Tongbing, a former gym-level trainer, to be promoted to the king. The king of China, the Ice Queen Wang Tongbing. The only trainer in China who had the Minas elf before me, the Ice Queen, so it's her. Yang Yu couldn't help being shocked. At the scene in front of him, did the Ice Queen want to single-handedly stop the terrifying avalanche on Mount Everest? No, this is not to prevent, but to channel, even if it is a king-level elf. If it wants to stop the avalanche in nature, it is impossible to do so. If it is to channel, let the avalanche avoid some important places. Salted Fish King, Little Bayo Bayo, Dudu, Big Beauty. Let's go. Support the Ice Queen, support Minas. There seems to be something wrong with the background. The background has posted but the update is not displayed. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huo Chiang Xiao. Chapter 988. Yeah. His hands were spinning in the air, drawing a circle. From this circle, he was filled with gentle superpower. At this moment, the 35 sergeants carrying Xian Xian and Xia Bayo Bayo on their backs landed quickly and safely. Is this the strength of a king-level super elf? When Captain Wang Hui only felt that in the blink of an eye, he had landed safely on the ground from an altitude of more than 1,000 meters in the next second, his miraculous ability was like a world away from his personal experience. The sky at this moment. There is the world of the King of Heaven, and it is also the realm of God. The Ice Queen, Wang Tongbing, is the god in the hearts of countless Tibetans in the area of Mount Everest in western Tibet, and is the patron saint who protects the comfort of the Mount Everest area. Hakran. Mif. The elf ball in Yang Yu's hand flashed again, and he quickly came to the back of Hakran in the air. The Salted Fish King, Xiao Bao Bao and De Mele, together with Dede, will assist the king-level Minas ahead. The sergeants have arrived safely on the ground in the military camp territory. The next thing they need to ensure is it's your own safety. On the way here, since we did not get close to the snow-capped mountains, the climate was still the same as the hot summer, with very high temperatures. However, an unexpected incident occurred at an altitude of more than 6,000 meters. In addition, due to the violent cold wind caused by the avalanche, Yang Yu was not sure whether he would be frozen directly without the protection of Dudu's superpower. Fortunately, in the sky, the gray-blue figure stood suspended in the air. Beside her, Wang Tongbing, the king-level trainer who followed Sister Ms. Y, immediately noticed the aura of the king-level elf that suddenly greeted her in the air. 2 Gyarados, a Menus, and a Slow King. The golden conch cap on Slow King's head was jingling in the air. The familiar elf configuration made this king-level trainer wearing a gray-blue gown and aloof temperament immediately recognize who the person was. The new king, Yang Yu. There was no need to ask Yang Yu why he came here. Sometimes, since we met, it was destined to be fate. The most important thing now is the peak in front of us. At this time, the avalanche caused a huge amount of ice, snow, and dust. The holy land of ice elves, Mount Everest. Sister Ms. Y. Ouch. Wang Tongbing ordered Sister Mi Chun to quickly bring Yang Yu, who looked slightly shabby in the air. Ice Queen, thank you for your help. Without Datu's protection, even if Yang Yu was tightly wrapped in a thick quilt at this time, it would still have no effective effect at high altitudes. Fortunately, Date had been protecting Yang Yu until he met Wang Tong, the king of ice. Under the contact of the king-level Ms. Y, Date finally had the opportunity to free up his hands and fight side by side with Xian Xian, De Meili, and Xiao Bao Bao. This time the opponent. Not an elf, but a natural avalanche on Mount Everest. From the angle where Yang Yu is now, in the avalanche on Mount Everest, there is not only the blue light belonging to the king-level Venus, but also at various different angles, facing the direction of the avalanche, there are also 5 ice-type lights released by other elven figures. Snow Witch, Blizzard King, Diang Sea Lion, Riding Dragon, and Ivory Pig. Facing the avalanche that seemed to be engulfing the trainer camp at the bottom, the 3 king-level elves, Dia Sea Lion, Chenglong, and Ivory Pig, were like a solid and thick protective force at this moment in front of the camp. Condensing powerful ice power, forming a thick ice wall. In the sky, wandering among the avalanches, the ethereal Snow Witch, together with the figure of Venus, and the last Blizzard King, intend to guide and disperse the most terrifying power of the avalanche. At the same time, Sister Ms. Y in the distance. We are using our superpowers to thoroughly monitor the situation around Mount Everest. In any dangerous place that may occur, it must quickly tell the Snow Witch and Venus to avoid avalanches causing greater harm. Stay. Ya. Dudu, who controlled the power of nature, moved quickly and instantly after Yang Yu's safety was completely guaranteed, and his figure arrived in front of the most dangerous camp. In this trainer camp, some people have been injured, and some trainers are buried under the snow waiting for rescue. Directly in front of the camp, Dia Sea Lions, Dragons, and Ivory Pigs must stick to this position. Because behind them, there are many rescuers and people who need to be rescued. No matter how huge the avalanche is, it must also be blocked. Yeah. The arrival of the pink figure Dede made many rescuers stunned for a moment, including the Dia Sea Lions, Chenglong, and Ivory Pigs in front of them. They all clenched their teeth and looked a little uncertain. But the power of the king-level elf rippling through Dede's body. At this critical moment, having more power from the king-level elves is a powerful guarantee of strength. When Dede slowly raised his hands, an extremely thick superpower gathered around him, like a gradually condensing ocean current, and gradually, like a sea of superpower. The soft power of water is combined with the power of super energy. The soft power is now adding a powerful buffering force to this extremely solid ice wall. Avalanche is a force of nature. Although it is impossible to resolve the terrifying power of avalanches, it is a crucial step to reduce the losses caused by natural disasters as much as possible. Then, let's fight against the avalanche. It's numerous fun to fight the destiny. King Salty Fish, Little Bao Bao, use the power of the wind. Don't you two make a furious tornado here? Use the power of the wind to lift up the avalanche to slow down the speed of the avalanche and reduce the impact of the avalanche. Don't roar here, the roar that shakes the earth may even trigger a bigger avalanche. Yang Yu had to remind these two energetic Gyarados that this was not the sea after all, and there were still some victims waiting for assistance at the foot of the avalanche. This is the rescue. Roar. The Salted Fish King turned back and glanced at Yang Yu, indicating that he already knew. The power of wind has always been with Gyarados at his side, so it's easy to use. Strong wind, listen to my command. The two powerful wind waves, combined with the power of ice and snow of the Snow Demon Girl, Blizzard King, and Minas, intended to guide and change the original direction of the avalanche to a predetermined track, and direct the avalanche to the place where there is a rescue area for personnel. Minimize harm. Is this the power of the King of Heaven? This is the power of God. At the foot of Mount Everest, many military officers, doctors, nurses and other rescue workers are unable to go to the front line to provide assistance when the avalanche approaches. Waiting for the avalanche. And in front of me, these powerful elves are like gods, weakening and guiding the power of avalanches around Mount Everest. Elves are the partners of humans. Elves and humans have a friendly relationship. Yi. The beauty's whole body also forms a force of ice. Ice and water have the same origin. Ice is another form of water. At this moment, the ice condensed on the tail of the great beauty completely covered its scales. In this avalanche of ice and snow, feel the terrifying power of ice and snow coming. Looking at the heavenly king level Minas traveling through the world of ice and snow like the Snow Demon Girl, the beauty's eyes were filled with more or less wisps of insight. The ice power awakened in the heavenly king level Minas is comparable to the water power. Perhaps, this is a feasible way for great beauty to be promoted to a king level elf? At this moment, there was another light that Yang Yu had not expected, suddenly flickering in front of Yang Yu. The blue crystal bead on Hakran's chest lit up, the white light of ice and snow. The power to control the weather. Wang Tong, Bingtian Wang's mouth moved slightly. It's windy, it's snowing. Boom. The avalanche on Mount Everest crashed down in the direction of the Dia Sea Lion, Chenglong, Ivory Pig, and Dudu. Yeah. The purple super light, at this moment, is like a waterfall, the light is in full bloom. Super waterfall, avalanche power, collapse. Pokemon's character master. Author, AI Renhuo Qiangxiao. Chapter 989. In the trainer camp, in addition to the ice wall formed by the indestructible ice elves and the superpowers released in a dull manner, when the mighty avalanche, like thousands of soldiers and horses, crashed into this defensive wall that protected the safety of mankind when in front of the body. In an instant, it was like an ice flower blooming. During the collision of these avalanches formed by ice, rock, ice, and snow, ice crystals splashed everywhere, raising countless dust of ice and snow again in the entire sky. At this moment, the entire sky seemed to be filled with a cloud of dust. The white light of ice and snow. Everything is a vast expanse of white. Boom 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 boom. The remnant power of the avalanche caused the ground to shake in the Everest area. This earthquake made the sergeants, doctors who were providing assistance in the rear far away from the camp, and the gathered trainers who had left the dangerous area feel a sinking feeling. In their sight, the trainer camp at the front was now engulfed by terrifying ice and snow. Everything around him felt nothing but cold. Just when everyone felt as if they were falling into an ice cellar and falling to the bottom of a valley, different shades of blue light instantly bloomed from the white world of ice and snow. At this moment, there was another ray of light in the blue. The eye-catching purple light shines like a beacon in the white world, illuminating the light of life. The aftermath is over, the aftermath is over, hurry up. Everyone, bring your weapons, shovels, detectors, stretchers, medical equipment, etc., and set off for rescue. Before the shaking on the ground had completely stopped, a series of high-spirited voices ignited the blood of struggle in the bodies of all the sergeants, doctors, and nurses here. I have ice elves who can help. Can Suinla do it? Can Suinla help us? Seal Ball, where is the Seal Ball? Seal Ball, come out quickly, get ready to save people. These trainers who left the frontline trainer camp first feel like they are surviving a disaster. However, at this crucial moment, there will always be a group of young trainers who stand up, even if their own trainers are not strong enough. Powerful, but they can use their best efforts, even if they only achieve some meager strength. This avalanche happened suddenly. It was not just an avalanche, but was often followed by a more powerful avalanche. At the same time, the aftermath of the avalanche causes vibrations on the ground, which will have a great impact on rescue, especially at the frontline trainer camp. If the avalanche does not stop completely, rescue operations may be life-threatening at all times. Trainers, thank you very much. The officer commanding here took a deep breath. The more at such a time, the more he can see the future integrity of a nation. These are the younger generation. Even if not all trainers are very strong, what they are showing at this moment is their responsibility. The snowflakes rising in the sky are made by all the elves of Ice Queen Wang Tongbing and the elves here by Yang Yu, who dissolve the large ice snowballs in the avalanche into flying snow in the air at this moment, and then through the salty snowflakes. The power of the wind of Kingfish and Little Storm guided the accumulated snowflakes to the foot of the snow-capped mountains in other areas of the Everest zone. Hakran controls the orb of weather power on his chest. Although the strength of the elite elves is not of much help, at this moment, personal experience in the world of ice and snow will greatly improve Hakran's ability to adapt to ice power and the ice and snow environment. Hakran itself has the ability to not be afraid of the power of ice. At this moment, it is fully adapting to the ice and snow environment in this ice and snow. In the future battle between elves, it will be of immense help. Especially dragons that are 4 times weaker than ice and fast dragons with flying attributes. When this weakness in facing the power of ice is completely erased, the future of Hack Dragon's Iohanpi will be extremely bright. Sister Mi Chuan, let's go down. The rescue team should need your help more at this time. Sister Mi Chun nodded, and took out a thick down coat and thermal goggles from her super space. After helping her master put it on, she took Yang Yu and landed on the ground from the air. Yang Tianwang, you should also replenish your warm clothes. Sister Mi Chuan will not be around later, and the current snowy weather here on Mount Everest is still very cold. After putting on the thick down coat on the thin body under the gray-blue robe, Yang Yu felt that this Ice Queen had more of a human atmosphere. Original outfit. In the memory of Yang Yu's mind, he thought of a person somewhat like the ancient master. However, the image of the Ice Queen Wang Tongbing has a more oriental feel, a bit like an enlightened master. King Dede and the others have completely withstood the largest wave of avalanches. Although avalanches on Mount Everest are common, this avalanche is more serious than before. King Wang Tongbing sighed softly, and from her voice, Yang Yu heard some worry and haggard. Without your help, King Yang Tian, the front line camp might have suffered a greater disaster this time. At this time, when the leader of the rescue team saw the guardians of Mount Everest and Yang Yu, they immediately rushed to them. Ice King, King Yang, you two kings, thank you. The heavy voice of gratitude is so clear at this moment. Sir Lu, I leave the rescue to you. My elves have been dispatched and will help you during the rescue process. All I can do now is pray for the people and elves who may be buried under the ice and snow. Wang Tongbing Tianwang reached out and squeezed the hand of the officer leader. There was endless tenderness in these deep eyes and full of hope. Ice King, King Yang, please don't worry, the rest will be left to us. The most dangerous avalanche on Mount Everest, which is also the largest avalanche, has been controlled to the maximum extent by the training of Wang Tongbing Tianwang and the young Yang Yushan Wang. This is already a very remarkable thing. It can be said that no matter what, I can't be too grateful. Poppy. The environment here, without the help of Sister Ms. Y and Dudu's superpowers, and the cold wind blowing around, made Tijapai's whole body shrink into an egg. Even the little dream monster who likes low-temperature environments, some of them couldn't bear the cold wind. This is real cold. When the elves around you are not around, you will feel that you are actually just a very ordinary person. Do you have such thoughts? Wang Tongbing Tianwang smiled kindly. Yang Yu nodded. Without the protection of superpowers, at this moment, I do feel like this. We are ordinary people, but we have powerful elves beside us. We and these elves, there is a deep friendship and bond between them. When Yang Yu's body was trembling from the cold, the little dream demon hugged Yang Yu's hair tightly, seeming to want to provide some heat to Yang Yu. Like the little dream demon, Yang Yu's big cotton padded jacket and the huge cotton padded jacket under the quilt, there was a warm fat man holding in Yang Yu's arms. Although the temperature is not high, my heart is extremely hot. This is why Yang Yu likes elves. In the minds of elves, trainers are everything to them. Speaking of which, I didn't expect to meet you, King Yang Tian here. This should be our first official meeting, right? Yang Yu thought for a while and nodded. Among the kings in the country, the one that Yang Yu met more often was naturally the Huaguo dragon messenger Xiazhe Peng. At the same time, there was now an additional senior sister Fang Lian. This was the first time I saw the rumored Ice Queen. Similarly, it was also the first time that Yang Yu saw another only Venus in China, the king-level Venus. This avalanche, I felt something unusual. To be honest, I have lived on Mount Everest for so many years. I have been here since 15 or 16 years ago. I have seen all kinds of things, big and small, on Mount Everest. There are many avalanche incidents on Mount Everest. But this time, I feel something is different. Wang Tongbing paused for a moment. His eyes turned to Yang Yu. I know that there is the existence of the rock god pillar Rijirok beside you. This is not a secret among us kings. It is precisely because of this that I will tell you these words. I feel, there seems to be some spirit sleeping in Mount Everest. I can feel it. At the same time, I had a hunch. It may wake up soon. Yang Yu's eyes gradually became serious and serious. Is that it? Frozen Bird. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huoqiang Xiao. Chapter 990. Yang Yu had some more thoughts in his heart. Regarding the understanding of Mount Everest, Wang Tong, the Ice King, who was promoted to the King of Heaven more than 10 years ago and also received the honorific title of Ice Queen, is not comparable to Yang Yu. She has lived here for more than 10 years. The elf's ability to advance from the gym level to the king level is due to the adaptive strength obtained in the natural iceberg environment of Mount Everest. This is no secret in the entire country of China and the world. She is the patron saint of Mount Everest. There is the Ice Queen Wang Tongbing sitting on Mount Everest. In this northwest border area, no one dares to think wrong under her nose. Those who once dared to challenge the authority of territorial sovereignty may be on the unknown peaks in the Mount Everest area. Completely frozen. It's just that now I can't determine in which mountain peak the frozen bird is frozen and sleeping. Regarding the secret glaciers around Mount Everest, the Elf Alliance has an Elf Secret Realm Exploration Scientific Expedition team to explore the secret realm, but most of the discoveries, they are some very ordinary small secret realms. Wang Tong, Bingtian Wang, tugged on his coat slightly to prevent the cold wind from pouring in from the collar. If the frozen bird is on Mount Everest, perhaps, the secret realm of Sky City will appear again, and the place where it appears is the Mount Everest region of our country. Yang Yu went on to say that regarding the news about the frozen bird, Yang Yu only knew that it was on Mount Everest, and that there was also a secret base of Yang Yu in the Green Mountain Forest area at the lower altitude of Mount Everest. On this matter, we still need to wait for the Elf Alliance Secret Realm Exploration team to have accurate information before we can make a decision. There will be no freezing birds on the territory of Mount Everest in our country like Sakura country's Mount Fuji. Matter. This heavenly king in her 50s was wearing gloves and rubbing her hands while breathing into her palms. Although she looked like an ordinary person, her tone of voice was calm. With supreme majesty. This is our territory. According to the regulations of the World Elf Alliance, the kings of other countries and regions cannot interfere with the elven secret realm that descended on Mount Everest. Yang Yu nodded solemnly. If anyone wants to reach out, just break their hand. Wang Tong, the Ice King, smiled slowly and continued, the battle between you and the North American King Dwight really touched my heart. You won very happily, and that's how it is. When it's time to take action, you must use the power of thunder. Take action with force and do it right, then don't spare others. It seems a little far away to say this now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rescue situation. I just hope that this time we can take action in time, and we can have fewer casualties, just a little less. Yang Yu was a little silent. This topic is indeed a bit serious. But at this moment, it is a problem they have to face. In the face of natural disasters, sometimes the trainer's own personal strength alone is still a bit insignificant. Captain Liu, how is the rescue situation here? Among the people who have been rescued so far, it's hard to describe. There are currently 79 people with minor injuries and 12 people with serious injuries. Most of these injured elves are seriously injured. In the end, they are using their bodies to help the trainers withstand the avalanche. Power, now in the camp. Captain Liu, the leader of the rescue team, took a deep breath and shook his head silently. Not everyone is lucky enough to be able to withstand the ice wall of the Dida Sea Lion, Dragon Rider, and Ivory Pig. There are also some trainers and elves who were too late to return to the camp during the climb and are still buried in the deep snow. Bobby. Although Tajipai was huddled in the eggshell, the sentimental atmosphere echoing around it gave it a hint of red around its two little eyes. I'll go take a look at the camp. Yang Yu smelled the cold and pungent strong smell of potion around him. After covering his nose with his hand, he resolutely entered the front-line camp, which was also the most severely affected trainer camp. Those who need rescue are not only the human trainers, but also the elves around the human trainers. At the moment he entered the camp, Yang Yu's heart was deeply touched. The scene in front of him seemed to take him back to the place where everything started, which was the original elf trust. At that time, Yang Yu might see many stray elves in need of treatment in the elf care center. The elves in front of him were lying on stretchers with their trainer masters, and they even couldn't bear the pain. The place twitched. Doctor, what's wrong with Bai Diao? Bai Diao, can you hear me? Bai Diao dash. On the stretcher's snow-white sheets, the bright red blood stains on it had frozen into ice. On this stretcher, a broken winged bird was lying on it with its eyes weak and its whole body paralyzed. On Bai Diao's back, there is also a sharp piece of ice that pierces into the back like a blade. Bai Diao used his back to withstand the fatal blow from the avalanche for its trainer. The trainer's heartbreaking voice gradually became blurred along with the hot tears. This was the sound that Yang Yu couldn't hear the most, not because of anything else, but because of the extremely deep bond between the trainer and the elf. This is the eternal thing in the elven world. I don't want to take the life water drops. I said, why don't you give the life water drops to my elf? There were also extremely excited voices from the injured trainers in the camp. For your injuries, you must use a large amount of life water drops to replenish energy and treat your injuries as soon as possible, otherwise your right leg will not be saved, you know. What about my elf? Where are the hands and tail of my tutu dog? Do you know what this means for the tutu dog whose arms can no longer hold the brush and tail for sketching? Sorry, there are really too many injured trainers and elves here. Our subsequent life drops are already being transported with all our strength on the road. Please don't be excited, don't be excited, I understand your mood. Please cooperate with our treatment, okay? Yang Yu's expression suddenly condensed, and he immediately walked quickly to where the doctor was, and quickly asked, how many drops of life are left here, and can the current treatment of these elves ensure that the amount of drops of life is sufficient? You are. The doctor's expression was frozen for a while. At this time, Captain Lu of the rescue team who was traveling with King Wang Tongbing quickly spoke, "This is King Yang Yu, Dr. Fang. Can the current rescue situation and the use of medical resources, such as life drops, guarantee the recovery of these elves from serious injuries?" Yang Yu raised his eyebrows and shouted several times in the camp, "Dadu, Dadu." When the man outside the camp who was helping the rescue team explore the buried people moved his ears, his big eyes immediately became focused. When the teleporting flash appeared in front of Yang Yu with Dede in an instant, Dede had already put on his hat completely. "Yeah. Dede is here, what are your orders?" "Dede, we are in urgent need of life drops here, leave it to you." "Yeah." No other unnecessary words. When Dede spread his hands to both sides, he naturally did his best in what he could do. "This is the purest drop of life water of the highest quality." Yang Yu pressed the doctor's shoulder and said quickly and earnestly, "Don't worry about the insufficient quantity of life drops. I leave it to you doctors to do your best to treat trainers and elves. In this regard, you are better than me, I'm more professional." Yes, yes, water drops of life are the most effective medical resource in this situation. Trainers and elves are in urgent need of replenishing a lot of energy, and they also need a lot of water. There are quite a few seriously injured elves this time. "Doctor, that's it? Don't say much. You go ahead and get busy," Yang Yu urged. When Dr. Fang quickly dispatched a nurse to quickly distribute the life drops to the seriously injured trainer and the seriously injured elf, he came back to his senses and froze here. "By the way, Captain Lu, who do you think he is?" "The new king, Yang Yu." What Dr. Fang and Captain Lu never expected was that Yang Yu, the newly promoted youngest king-level trainer in China, would take a cart from the venue and bring the supplies on it. When he joined the rescue team with great skill. This little King Yang's first experience was in assisting seriously injured stray elves in the Elf Care Center. Perhaps this is one of the important reasons why he can become a king-level trainer at this age. Wang Tong, the Bingtian king, rubbed her eyebrows. In her eyes, she had a better understanding of Yang Yu, the young king. At this time, among the busy rescue team, beside the running figure, there was a Tijipai, a Jigglypuff, a floating dream monster, and various materials in their hands that were quickly switched and handed over to the right person. "The croak-headed frog in my hand." The combination of this team seems so extraordinary among the rescue teams. Tijipai, Little Dream Demon, and Jigglypuff, the task of appeasing the elves will be left to you. Frog, use your fastest speed to distribute the supplies. Pay attention to the rescue uniforms worn by people. Be precise. The most important thing. And Dudu, the number of life drops here is enough for the time being. We must try our best to find the disaster-stricken trainers and elves buried under the snow. Please. Yeah. Dede patted his belly, and just left it to Dede with confidence and boldness. The little dream monster at this time is not the little dream monster at the beginning. Now, in its eyes, there is the word responsibility. Not many of these seriously injured elves can be helped by it, but with Tijipai and Jigglypuff, the power that their small team can exert is by no means as weak as it seems. Bola. Jigglypuff knew what he was going to do now. When Jigglypuff clenched his microphone in his hand, he knew in his heart that at this moment, he needed to activate the somewhat dull atmosphere here and make the atmosphere here as vibrant as in the North American elf paradise. Whether it is the wandering elves of the past or the current elves who were seriously injured by avalanches, as long as it is life, it will grow in a vigorous and upward direction. What Jigglypuff has to do is Bola. On this little cart, Jigglypuff is ready. Here is Jigglypuff's important stage. When Jigglypuff saw the desolate and sad scenes in front of him, his emotions were deepest in his fellow elf, and his voice, amidst his hoarse cries, became stronger. This is a song. Jigglypuff's song. This is Jigglypuff's own song. Among them, it describes Jigglypuff's own ups and downs along the way. Likewise, it contains Jigglypuff's unyielding struggle. Injury cannot stop Pang Ding from forging ahead. Likewise, it is an incentive for his own vitality to thrive towards a more majestic angle. At this moment, the noisy sounds in the camp, accompanied by Jigglypuff's deep, hoarse, powerful, and vital singing voice, gradually became pure and stable. Those painful wails, those who became extremely excited because of being frightened at this moment, his emotions gradually began to return to reason. If this place can provide strong support for the seriously injured trainer and the seriously injured elf, and this power comes from deep in their hearts and belongs to their own strength. Music. And just music. Perhaps, no matter where Jigglypuff sings, for example, in an elf battle, it cannot bring any substantial power to the opponent. In other words, Jigglypuff singing is just some entertainment in the eyes of many trainers. However, for Yang Yu, Jigglypuff singing can give the elf the power to increase its abilities. Music itself is a kind of power. The magic fairy stick held in the little dream demon's hand, when Day-Day is not around, the little dream demon can also learn to act like Day-Day and use his own abilities. Amplify Jigglypuff's singing voice, expand it, and spread it to farther parts of the camp and anywhere in every corner. Poppy, Poppy. Tijipai was beside Jigglypuff, using his cheerful face and suppressing tears to bring an atmosphere to the camp that belonged to the blessing of the goddess of luck. Here, every elf is lucky. Here, every trainer is lucky. Human trainers and elves have shown their deep friendship and bond in the face of natural disasters. This is luck, because the trainer and the elves met for the first time. Encounter is a lucky encounter and a destined fate. Even more fortunately, the trainer and the elves will walk out of the camp together in good health and return to their original lives. This is the power of luck. Quack, quack, quack. The frog's eyes fell on a seriously injured elf. He might. What can you do for them at this moment? The frog's eyes fell on this drop of life. A soft light shone from the hand of the frog. The light spots containing the life force of the droplets of life flew quickly towards the little elves on the fingertips of the frog like a goddess scattering flowers. Yang Yu's pupils flashed suddenly. This is Golden Healing Shuriken. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Renhuo Xiangxiao. Chapter 992. In the camp, light blue shurikens flying in a spiral like a bamboo dragonfly appeared. These slowly flying shurikens carried the power of life drops. When they were about to come into contact with the injured elf, the rotation stopped in an instant. This layer of water-like shuriken film only made a slight pop sound, and then, like a bubble bursting, a rain containing life water droplets quickly fell on the injured elf's side. If the power of life has a color, it must be like the golden sun when it first rises. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. The frog controlled his own shuriken. At this time, under the rain in the camp, the frog's slender hands were like a pianist, accurately hitting the syllables of each key. Snap! Snap! In this light raindrop, the shurikens of the croak-headed frog gradually faded away along with Jigglypuff's music. Yang Yu carefully stared at each shuriken sword flower in the hand of the frog. Although compared with the Koga ninja, he was obviously a little unfamiliar and immature, but at this moment, he was very confident about successfully using the water-based move Sailor Shuriken and Water Drop of Life. It can be said that the combined performance has exceeded Yang Yu's imagination. Moves are not only used to fight opponents in elf battles, but also have an unusual effect at this critical moment. The frog's control over the water shuriken fully embodies the body coordination and strength control in daily training. Although there is not much power that can be used, in terms of essence, the croaking frog is definitely the absolute best among the elves with the same strength. The scattered power is concentrated on one point, and the best effect is achieved with the minimum force, whether it is the percussion of musical instruments in rock or the adjustment of body coordination. At this moment, the frog is using the skills of the water shuriken. Through the accumulation of daily training, it can be said that it comes naturally. Sharp. The Little Dream Monster's conductor, Jigglypuff's music, Tigipai's encouragement, and the help of the Crooked Frog. Even though Yang Yu's elves are quite small, and their strength doesn't look very strong, the combination they form at this moment and their combined strength can bring vitality to the entire camp. Of vitality. This is the power of hope. Come on, don't be stunned. This is the best medical opportunity created by King Yang Tian. Such rhythmic singing attracts the attention of the elves and can divert their pain. There is no need to be reminded by the head nurse or chief physician here. The doctors and nurses who can go to the front line for rescue, as well as the sergeants who are always ready around them, are of extremely high quality. They will never let this important rescue in front of them pass. Missed prime time. King Yang Yushin, thank you very much. At this moment, Yang Yu felt the respectful gazes cast by pairs of people in the camp. In addition to these respectful gazes, there were also grateful gazes from the wounded and injured elves. I just did what I could. Yang Yu answered Captain Lu, who was directing the camp rescue, and then shifted his gaze outside the camp. Right in front of the camp, above the ice wall that blocked the avalanche, there were figures one after another, looking for those who had been killed. Buried climbers and their spirits. Are there any missing people or elves in the current rescue? I have asked the Snow Witch to penetrate into the snow here and conduct a search. However, I can only guarantee the range of the mountain on our side. Additional search power is needed on the slopes at other angles. King Wangtong and Bing Tian looked worriedly in other directions of the mountains. The first time I learned about the avalanche, it took about 58 seconds from the time I set out to get here. I can only guarantee the approximate location information of the climbers during the period after 58 seconds. And before these 58 seconds, it was unclear whether anyone would be hit by an avalanche from the other side of the mountain. 58 seconds. While Yang Yu was quite shocked, if he thought about it carefully, he could understand why King Tong Bingtian could do this. She has lived here for more than 10 years, nurturing and training her own elves in Mount Everest. With the help of the ice elves, she knows everything about Mount Everest. If there is an avalanche on Mount Everest, Wang Tong and Bingtian Wang will be here as soon as possible. However, avalanches on Mount Everest sometimes occur without warning. Especially with the addition of human factors and magical factors, there are no rules for avalanches on Mount Everest. Let me go and have a look in the distance. I will take Dede and the others to the slopes around Mount Everest, hoping to find the trainers and elves who may have been buried by the avalanche there in time, Yang Yu suggested. At this time, one more king means one more powerful helper, which has a greater advantage in rescue. Then I have to ask King Yang Tian. As soon as I have news about a possible missing person, I will notify you immediately, Wang Tongbing said slowly. The King of Heaven is also a human being, not a god. This large avalanche happened suddenly, and the possible secrets involved made Wang Tongbing feel a little haggard at this time. At this time, having Yang Yu, the King of Heaven, as a helper, perhaps, this should be a blessing in misfortune. Stay, Tijipai, let's go first. Little Dream Demon, Jigglypuff, Frog, and Hakron, I leave this place to you. Tijipai is searching for the relationship between the trainer and the elves. It has been a great help, this time we divided the work and cooperated. Bola. Quack quack quack. The Little Dream Monster, Tijipai, and the frog smacked Yang Yu's palm in turn. Mimikyu looked at it as if he could only slap Yang Yu's palm with his crooked ears. Poppy. There are also Salted Fish King and Little Bayo Bayo here in the camp to transport and control, and Yang Yu still needs the power of De Meili here. Yi. Yang Yu sat on De Mei's back and quickly left the camp, heading towards the slopes in other directions where there might be avalanche conditions. Ya. Dede controlled the temperature and environment around Yang Yu. At the same time, Yang Yu held Tijipai firmly and motioned towards Tijipai in the direction of the surroundings for a lucky exploration. In addition to Tijipai, Dede is also using his superpower to detect the possible locations of trainers and elves in the vast white snow. Beautiful, let's get closer to these snowy areas and fly close to the surface. Yang Yu commanded. Yi. As the big and beautiful blue-scaled fantail flew close to the surface of the snow-capped mountain slopes, a trace of snow mist appeared all over its body, swinging towards the left and right sides. While traveling at high speed, as long as Dede and Tijipai gave instructions, De Mei could immediately fly vertically upward to reduce the speed and stop the low-altitude skimming. Poppy. When Tijipai waved his little hand and shook it in one direction, Yang Yu and Dede immediately noticed Tijipai's command. At the same time, the beautiful girl who was flying, seeing Tijipai's instructions, immediately moved towards flying away in the direction of waving. In the shadow space, Darkrai looked at the cliff-like waterfall and couldn't help but stare. If someone falls in this place, even if he falls into the river, even if he survives, he will be washed away by the cold river water and will be frozen to death, right? Fall from this place, maybe that person has a flying spirit? In any case, Tijipai has responded here, so we still have to look for it. We can only hope that we can find the missing person quickly. Even if Yang Yu said this, seeing the huge gap in the broken wall on De Mei's back, his heart felt like an abyss, and the sound of gurgling water coming from below still gave Yang Yu a lot of excitement. Hope. Believe in Tijipai's power. Yeah. Just as De Mei was flying from this cliff towards the river below, she stood aside and suddenly moved her big eyes. Soon, Dede reached out and patted Yang Yu on the shoulder. Dede made a major discovery. What's wrong? Dudu, did you see someone? Yang Yu was overjoyed. Tijipai was looking for luck in this area. Coupled with Dede's absolute strength, it would be of great help to find the missing trainers and elves in this avalanche. Growling, grrrrrrrr. Dudu nodded. Poppy. Tijipai suddenly cheered, with a joyful smile on his face. Seeing Tijipai's smile and Dude's reaction, Yang Yu quickly relaxed in his heart. At the same time, he quickly looked in the right direction pointed by Dudu's hand. Yi. De Mei immediately found a figure. It was a two-tailed monster. This two-tailed monster was on the tallest tree around the river below. It was waving its tail crazily while making excited monkey calls of squeak, 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 squeak. The sound was intended to attract the attention of Yang Yu and De Mei who were passing by in the sky. Here, there is the power of nightmares. Darkrai in Yang Yu's shadow space murmured. In the camp, due to the rescue operations in the camp, very few people actually fell asleep. During the rescue process, whether it was doctors or nurses, including Jigglypuff singing behind them, they were able to make these seriously injured trainers and the elf steeled himself. In this way, the shadow caused by the avalanche in their hearts is more or less unable to reflect the power of nightmares in their dreams. But now, the nightmare god feels the power of nightmares caused by humans having nightmares, which means that, there are missing survivors here. Squeak, 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 squeak. When the two-tailed monster saw Yang Yu and Minas, its eyes were red with excitement and she shed tears. At the same time, it immediately greeted and guided the direction with its tail. At the same time, it put its hands together and kept moving in the direction of Yang Yu. Worship. This is begging Yang Yu for help. Yeah. Dada stretched out his powerful right hand and held each other's hand-shaped tail with the two-tailed monster's hand. At the same time, there was firmness and seriousness in his eyes. They are here to help those who need help at this time. Take us to find your master. I think he must be in need of medical assistance now, Yang Yu said in a deep voice. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The two-tailed monster nodded wildly. When Yang Yu signaled De Mele to land from the top of the treetops to the ground, there were still large ice blocks vaguely visible around the river here. There is no doubt that these are ice cubes and snowballs that fell from the cliff above due to avalanches. When the two-tailed monster ran, it stretched out its hand to wipe away its tears, and at the same time turned its head, fearing that Yang Yu and Dede might not catch up. In fact, Yang Yu and Dede were right beside it. Finally, not running too far, right next to a big rock next to the tree where the two-tailed monster was, a young female climber was leaning here calmly, her face pale and unconscious. He had purple frostbite lips, obvious blood stains on his forehead, and a huge gash in the backpack beside him. What Yang Yu didn't expect was that there was no flying elf next to the female climber. In addition to the two-tailed monster, there is also a direct bear. This direct bear is beside the female trainer, using its thick fur to protect the injured owner and prevent the rapid loss of heat. How did you get here? No, I mean, the cliff above is so high, it should be at least a few hundred meters. You encountered an avalanche from above, how did you get to this place? Yang Yu stretched out his hand and made gestures. Dudu took out a cup, diluted it slightly with life water drops in the cup, and handed it to the two-tailed monster. The two-tailed monster sniffed with his nose and carefully tasted a small sip. His eyes lit up and he hurriedly handed the diluted glass of life water droplets to the straight bear. Then he stretched out his tail and gave it to Yang Yu. Dai started gesticulating. Hoo ho ho. The two-tailed monster picked a few leaves from the nearby tree, pointed them at the air in front of Yang Yu like wings capable of gliding, and began to demonstrate. Yang Yu used the power of the wave guide to feel the meaning of the two-tailed monster hand's words, and at the same time, his expression was extremely surprised. You mean, you were sent down by the leaves? That is to say, when you were threatened by the avalanche and fell from the cliff, there was an invisible force that took you down from above through these leaves. Floating down slowly. Squeak. The two-tailed monster nodded crazily and jumped left and right in front of Yang Yu's dumbfounded eyes, expressing his overwhelming agreement. That's it? When they fell, it seemed as if there was some kind of force that was holding them up and slowly floating down from mid-air. The owner of the two-tailed monster hand passed out due to fright, but the two-tailed monster hand and the straight bear clearly saw that when they fell, it was these leaves were holding them down. This is a sacred mountain. Mount Everest, the mountain has spirit. The two-tailed monster headed towards the depths of the woods and worshipped devoutly again. Yeah. Dada stretched out his left hand to catch a falling leaf from the air, and at the same time scratched the back of his head with his right hand. Suddenly, a crescent-like smile appeared in his big eyes. Grrrrrrrrr. Dede immediately opened his hands and quickly hugged the nearest tree in front of him. Snap! At this moment, the confusion and shock in Yang Yu's heart quickly became clear from the moment he hugged the tree. Oh, it's you. Senior Totegui. The top of the tree that I was holding in my arms shook and fell. Lots and lots of leaves. Mount Everest, the mountain has spirit. Pokemon's character master. Author, AI Ren Huo Chiang Xiao. Chapter 993. Luki I, the Ecological Environment Maintenance Staff of the Elf Secret Realm, great. Her vital signs have stabilized now. She will probably wake up in a while. King Yang, thank you very much. After finding the survivor of the avalanche, Yang Yu immediately asked De Mele to roll up his tail and quickly return to the camp with the survivor. Under the rapid treatment of medical rescue personnel, this survivor's injuries were lighter than most injuries. However, due to the fright in the avalanche, it still took some time to wake up. After listening to this doctor's words, Yang Yu felt a little relieved. In fact, the person he really wanted to thank was not Yang Yu, but Senior Totegui, who had become a spiritual mountain with his body. Just on the edge of the highest peak of Mount Everest, among the endless mountains at a relatively low altitude, this is the powerful ability of Senior Totegui to use the natural scenery to hide himself. It seems to be integrated with the mountains that originally existed here. The geographical landscape has basically not changed much, and it will not attract special attention from geographical researchers. However, Yang Yu would naturally not tell the doctor in front of him the secret. Ecological Environment Maintenance Personnel. Yang Yu noticed the identity and work of the survivor, and made a slight guess in his mind. It is probably the survivor named Lu Qi who protects the ecological and natural environment in the Mount Everest area. All this is seen by Senior Totegui. This should be the reason why Senior Totegui came to help this time. In the elf world, perhaps what these protectors of the elf secret realm do will not attract too much attention and understanding from external trainers, but it can leave a deep impression in the eyes of the elves in nature. The mountains are not high, if there are immortals, they are famous, if the water is not deep, if there are dragons, they are spiritual. Yang Yu blinked and recalled that when he was looking for this surviving trainer, the iceberg river below flowed toward the east, from the Yellow Sea to the waters around Mount Everest in western Tibet. Maybe the spirit of spirit is currently working hard in this direction. Stay, Tajapai, let's continue looking for other trainers. The avalanche on Mount Everest this time should lead to a short-term mountain closure in the near future. During this period, ordinary climbers will no longer continue climbing to higher areas of Mount Everest. Environmental research experts on the avalanche on Mount Everest will be stationed at the frontline camp to conduct a comprehensive analysis of the avalanche event. The weather changes are a bit strange, but for a place like Mount Everest, it's normal. But I didn't expect that a large avalanche would cause such serious harm. There may be an unknown butterfly effect, or perhaps a problem with the wind direction in a small area, which caused the danger of this avalanche to increase significantly. Has the final number of personnel been checked? Are there any climbers and elves that have not yet been found? Report to Captain Liu. This time two kings took action in time, and the speed of search and rescue by King Yang Yushin was beyond our imagination. In less than 15 minutes, he immediately found the 5 missing climbers in the distance. The power of the heavenly kings, when faced with natural disasters, their power can really help the disaster-stricken areas reduce a large number of casualties. What's left is to rebuild this frontline camp as soon as possible. The work of the scientific research station here must continue, and the exploration of possible secrets in the Everest iceberg area must not stop at all times. Yes. Yang Yu was now standing on the mountainside area above the frontline trainer camp, looking up at the extremely charming summit of Mount Everest with deep eyes. Fortunately for this avalanche, these climbers did not reach a fatal height. At the same time, there was no project to challenge and conquer the summit of Mount Everest. The height that everyone climbed was within an acceptable safe zone. The worst-case scenario did not ultimately occur. But with this accident, Yang Yu also gained more knowledge about Mount Everest. Especially for those climbers who have climbed to the top of Mount Everest, the elves around them cannot guarantee their safety when they reach the height of the last few levels. After all, not all climbers have the strength to have a gym. The level of strength of a super trainer. At a critical point, they are simply living people, and the title of trainer has no effect in the last crucial distance. The only thing that can play a role is the belief in reaching the top. The top of the mountain is stunning, isn't it? In her free time, the Ice Queen changed back into her original grey-blue robe. At this moment, under the superpower of Miss Me Lip, she stepped on her toes and appeared in front of Yang Yu. Yang Yu took a deep look at the highest peak and nodded. Before I came to Mount Everest, I may not have known the charm of the top of Mount Everest, but this avalanche reminded me of the history of climbing Mount Everest. Now, I have some understanding of the team's situation. Conquering the top of Mount Everest requires Chinese trainers to exert great determination and courage. In the history of decades ago, the trainers of the Chinese mountaineering team never stopped their efforts to conquer the top of Mount Everest. Pace of even an avalanche cannot stop it. On the top of Mount Everest, even some kings from other countries and regions in the elf world may not be able to reach the top, because their elf powers at the level of kings cannot support them to continue to move towards the top of the mountain in this extremely harsh environment, Ice Queen Wang Tong and Bing Tian King said lightly. So, it is conceivable that the efforts made by those climbers may not only be sweat and blood, but also their lives. Yang Yu nodded and his expression became silent. Now that we have arrived at Mount Everest, and the rescue team has carried out all-out efforts to rescue the injured and their elves, at this time, why don't we go up and take a look? The top of Mount Everest is like the level of a king-level trainer. Most people will never reach such a height in their lifetime. You will also have your own insights. Wang Tongbing nodded in the direction of Sister Enchanted Lips. Immediately, this somewhat enigmatic and ethereal figure appeared high in the sky, getting higher and higher. On the top of Mount Everest, we soon came to the feet of the Ice Queen Wang Tongbing. Outside the frontline trainer camp, some of the rescue workers who were on duty and resting outside could not help but stare at the two figures rising slowly in the sky. This is the trainer strength possessed by the King of Heaven, the Elf World, and the King-level trainer. List of small hills. Yang Yu stepped onto the top of the mountain at this moment, but his eyes quickly looked up at the sky on the top of the mountain. King-level trainer. Perhaps, only when you reach this level will you understand that the heavenly king level is actually a beginning. Should we stop moving forward, or should we, like the sky above our heads, reach a higher level than the top of Mount Everest? Don't change your original intention and keep moving forward. We have reached this height by accident. While we are still young, why don't we go to a higher place to have a look? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huoqiang Xiao. Chapter 994. Wang Tianwang, I may need to trouble you a lot during this period. I am going to train in the forest next to the inaccessible Mount Everest for a period of time. Please forgive me if I cause too much noise. People in the front line camp have begun to move down the mountain. Seriously injured climbers have begun recuperation in the nearby hospital. At the same time, the injured elves will also undergo rehabilitation training with the trainers there. After this avalanche incident, Yang Yu is about to start his retreat career. When you have time, we can learn and communicate with each other. As for you, the newly promoted young king, I still want to see your strength. Wang Tongbing nodded and smiled slightly. I see your meanness. Perhaps there are great benefits from this avalanche. At this point, the environment around Mount Everest is indeed worthy of the training between trainers and elves here. Yang Yu nodded. For water elves, the power of the ice system has the same attributes, and has a very good effect when learning and understanding the moves. Most water elves will master some powerful ice-based moves, such as blizzards and freezing rays, but Yang Yu always feels that Male's learning of ice-based moves should not focus on these, but moves like Ice Tail. At present, the most powerful attack move of Male is to use her blue scale fan tail to attack with different attributes, including the dragon tail with dragon attribute and the water tail with water attribute. Without exception, when these two moves are performed, it is as if different blade colors are painted on the blade of a crescent knife, the gold of the dragon tail, the blue of the water tail, and white light with ice attributes. I don't know how gorgeous the changes will be when the 18 attributes are collected and activated into the tail to form a variety of tail moves with different attributes. Only. It's probably just Yang Yu's whim. At present, in the elf world, in addition to the elf EV, who can master multi-attribute power to match the multi-attribute evolution type, he can collect 18 attributes to perform moves. Probably only alpacas. But there is one thing to say, if Great Beauty can really master the power of these attributes, then the battle between elves will be an extremely gorgeous dance of blades show. As for now, Big Beauty, let's go, let's start by mastering the power of ice attributes. Yee. We can learn from the paths of our predecessors, but we do not copy them blindly. Although I have not had a long relationship with the Ice Queen's Heavenly King level Minas, one thing is certain. For the Great Beauty who is full of learning talent, when she reaches the gym level, she can understand a lot about ice on her own. The understanding of strength, not to mention Yang Yu's guidance from the side. The gate of the King of Heaven has been slowly opened for Great Beauty, but if Great Beauty wants to cross the threshold of the gate, it still needs unremitting efforts. This retreat is a good time. Senior, we need to find a stronger mountain. This time there may be collisions again and again. Then it is best to be a little further away from Mount Everest, so as not to cause another avalanche on Mount Everest due to mountain vibrations. In terms of finding a venue, Yang Yu naturally asks Senior to Tegui. There are endless mountains here. I don't know how many mountains Senior Tutegui occupies, but what is certain is that in order to welcome the frozen birds back to the Sky City Elf secret realm this time, Senior Tutegui must continue to save money here. Hold on to your own strength. Call out. Phew. In the forest, two figures that resembled vine whips appeared from the bushes in front of Yang Yu and Dede, and at the same time, they were pointing in the direction of a good place. Yang Yu happily took the elves such as Dede and Little Dream Demon, and followed the guidance of the mountain god to walk in the dense forest, bypassing some coniferous forests, and could also see the turtles living on the backs of seniors. The elves, some of the flying elves, even grew thick feathers. In terms of adapting to the environment, elves can quickly feel the changes in the environment and make their own changes, including elves like Zhongxiang, whose body size is larger than what Yang Yu has seen in other places. A little thicker. The Little Dream Demon has returned to the primitive forest. She likes the cold climate here, the fresh air here, and what she likes even more is that there are many ghost elves in this forest. Now, the Little Dream Demon can go to the ghost-type elf to play Ghost Tide again. This is a good and fast training method to improve his strength. Retreat is not only about improving the elves at the top of the strength level such as Salted Fish King, Dede, Big Beauty, and Little Bao Bao. It is also an opportunity for Harker and the Croaking Frog to consolidate. The water shuriken of the frog can be used to repel the enemy when advancing, and the retreat can be combined with the power of the life water droplets to treat the elves. Before evolving into the Koga Ninja Frog, he mastered the signature move of the water shuriken to the extreme. After evolving, then what you can perform will become even more miraculous. Hakran, we go to the icebergs and mountains of Mount Everest every day to experience the icy and snowy weather, control the ice power, and eat ice cream together. It should have the effect of getting twice the result with half the effort. Myth. Finally, we can have a big meal openly. Oh no, it's time for a big training session. Even though you can enjoy eating in a dream, the feeling of eating so much in reality is definitely different. In just such an instant, Hakran's originally noble figure suddenly turned into a honeyed one. The country is easy to change, but the nature is hard to change. However, here on Mount Everest, the former Ice Queen also used the unique environment here to train her ice elves. Similarly, Yang Yu can also draw on factors from the natural environment to help the elves improve their own strength. Yeah. When Dede saw the instructions from Vine Whip and stopped, his big eyes immediately noticed some unusual scenes in the venue. Big Steel Snake, Boss Cordera, it seems that they have undergone labor transformation here, and they have also had a good impact on the ecological environment of the back of the turtle. Yang Yu's eyes fell on Boss Cordera, whose wounds had not yet recovered, and his thoughts changed. Perhaps they can be used to build a new ore kingdom for Diangzi and her little diamond people, and at the same time, this Boss Cordera, whose scars have not yet recovered, can regenerate metal. This open rocky area looks quite solid, Senior Turtle, let's start training here. When Yang Yu and Dudu's figures appeared in the open rocky area of this mountain forest, the huge and strong gym-level steel snake and boss Cordera immediately showed fearful looks. As the elf balls around Yang Yu flashed one after another, the eyes of these two large elves with steel attributes became increasingly fearful. Because the Salted Fish King is already a king-level elf in strength. Boom! When the Xianyu dynasty hit the ground violently and started the first collision of retreat. At the very front of the extremely winding mountain range, a pair of deep eyes appeared under a pair of cracked and rough stone eyelids in a large, dark rock. There was even some joy in his eyes. How could this wave of backbeating be so comfortable? Be vigorous, be vigorous. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, AI Ren Huo Shao. Chapter 995. Yang Yu once thought about whether training the moves of the king-level elf on the back of Senior Totegui would cause some harm to Senior Totegui, but it was obvious that Yang Yu thought too much. The impact of the Salted Fish King. It seemed that apart from the slightly louder sound, it did not cause any particularly huge damage to the rocky area on Senior Totegui's back. Even, it seems to be stronger than the inner battlefield of the water system gym. Yang Yu was a little surprised now. Although this rocky area seems to be ordinary and has no characteristics, but the rock structure here is very solid, and it is one of the strongest areas on the back of this large earth turtle with a lifespan of several thousand years. Although its attack capability is not sensitive due to its size, it is in terms of defensive capabilities, an impact of this level should. It's just Guashat. There was nothing wrong with Reggie Locke's analysis of the core of his wisdom, but speaking it out so neatly made Yang Yu feel a little bit sentimental. It is true that a king-level trainer has reached the top of the training pyramid in the elf world, but for an elf like Senior Totegui who has lived in the elf world for thousands of years, his background is still too thin. After all, how many decades are there in total in life? Yeah, Dede also scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. The two vine whips on Senior Totegui's back that previously guided Yang Yu and Dede were like a medium to express Senior Totegui's mood. They were like two seaweeds in the water, excited at this moment. Mendy trembled with relief. Yang Yu. Seniors are seniors after all. This backing is so stable. Salted Fish King, you can let go and practice the collision moves with peace of mind. In the past, the Salted Fish thrust training was very easy to train, but when this move reaches the king level, you can't slack off in training. This is our foundation. Salted Fish thrust is a move that is engraved in the bones of Salted Fish King. At one time, Salted Fish King could do almost nothing except splashing in the water. Later he learned the noise, but only this one move, Salted Fish thrust. But it is the foundation of all physical moves of Salted Fish King. Roar. It seemed like an ordinary impact training, but the Salted Fish King did not use all his strength. It was just a simple test to see if the venue could not withstand the destruction of the Salted Fish's thrusts. After all, the inner court of the water system gymnasium was tragically demolished when the Salty Fish King's gymnasium level was strong. This move of the king, even if it is just an ordinary impact, is not something that ordinary venues can withstand. The final result not only surprised Yang Yu, but also the Salted Fish King himself felt a little incredible. Because of the venue in front of me. It's just an ordinary looking rocky field. Regirock is right. If these elves with thousands of years of foundation really show their strength, they may not be able to fight against the elves of ordinary king-level trainers. What Yang Yu said was correct, and the problem now was very clearly placed in front of Yang Yu and King Xianyu. For Senior Totegui, the king-level Salted Fish Thorn is just scraping or backbeating. Although it may be a bit hurtful to say this, it is the fact. However, the benefits are also very obvious. The Salted Fish King can attack with all his strength. In this area, the back of the mountain range of Senior Tutegui has an unexpected shock-absorbing effect. Just the current strength of the salted fish king alone, that is, without entering the scarlet state, without entering the original return to the super-evolved state, just the pure blue initial form is still a bit reluctant to cause vibrations in other areas by hitting this area. But this is no reason to continue to slack off. Yi. De Mali swayed her long pink eyebrows, and looked at salty fish king Dada's move training in front of her with bright eyes. He collided with the rocky area again and again. Among them, De Mali recalled her training in the meteor forest. The art of drawing a sword. The blue scale fantail is like a knife. The water tail has a blue blade. At that time, the salted fish king was the pillar for De Mali to train her water tail moves. From Xianyu Wang Dada's move training, De Mali saw her own shadow, but during the training process of Xianyu Wang Dada, it was obvious that De Mali still needed to learn the momentum and power of the moves. And also study hard. After all, such powerful melee combat is the beauty's favorite. Little Bayo, you don't have to look around here anymore, let's start impact training in this area together. Yang Yu pointed at this ordinary rock formation. This kind of rock formation seemed to have a defense max buff added to the back of Senior Turtle. However, this was a huge test for King Salted Fish and Little Bao. The power of the basic moves will determine how much power the Z move can burst out after it is used. Whether it is the salted fish thrust of the Salted Fish King or the violent impact of Xiao Bao, after such high-intensity training, regardless of whether the Z move is used or not, all the moves can make the moves more skillful. At least, I will let the Salted Fish King and Little Bao come into contact with the possibility of using Z moves if they meet the standards I expected. Yang Yu thought secretly. At this time, little did they know that there was another Gyarados coming to help with the massage, which was a great joy for the Senior Tutai turtle. With the endless mountain peaks, Senior Tutegui sometimes wants to move his back and waist, but it is still a little difficult. Sometimes when the elves migrate in the forest behind Tutegui, it can also bring some pleasant lightness to it. Massage experience. This time is different. This is a joint massage between a king-level Gyarados and a gym-level Gyarados. In terms of strength, this is definitely an old technique, and it feels just right. There is no pain, nor is the move too light, making it feel insignificant. What the Salted Fish King never expected was, one day, I actually did something like a massage. If it were in the past, wouldn't it be the Salted Fish King who came to enjoy the massage while other elves scraped him? For example, the Salty Fish King was deeply impressed by the several marsupials and small marsupials he encountered on the island in the center of the world. The effect of the thunder and lightning punch was like a thunder and lightning massage punch, which was quite refreshing. It's not that I won't report it, the time has not yet come. The comfort of massage that the Salted Fish King once experienced has now begun to turn into a labor force. Call out. Phew. When Senior Tutegui communicated with Yang Yu, the vine whip pointed in the other direction a few times, and Yang Yu just froze in place, dumbfounded. Because there is more than one solid rock area on Senior Tutegui's back, and more importantly, go to that new place and tidy up too. You can't be more favorable to one than the other. Now that you've beaten your back, let's do it right away.